Hi everybody, Ashley Bratzel here. I am getting ready to show you my repeatable many hearts design using the interlocking crochet technique. We are definitely going to need a hook and 2 colors of yarn. Ideally they should be solid and they should have high contrast between them. Think dark and light. Your hook size should match your yarn size. In this case I've used worsted weight yarn and I have a 4.5mm hook, which is a bit smaller than normally is required. We're going to jump right into the pattern and start off our main color foundation row. We need to start with a slip knot like we always start a crochet project with, and then we are going to create windows. You're going to start with 5 chains and then you double crochet into the first chain that you made, which creates a window. This is your first window. It's probably the easiest window. We always have a chain space between our double crochet stitches when we're doing our normal mesh. So we also going to chain space here. Then we want to do a treble crochet and we're going to go back into the same spot we just did the double crochet in. We use the treble crochet to represent the chain space at the bottom between double crochets and the double crochet itself. Now we yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook. This counts as the chain space at the bottom. That's going to be between our double crochets. Then we yarn over and pull through 2 loops on our hook and yarn over, pull through 2, add a chain space between the double crochets as always. Watch carefully to see where the next treble crochet goes. It's going in between the middle of the treble. So we're yarning over, we're going through 2, then yarn over, and then this, when we're going through 2, we're going to pinch from the first, and then we yarn over, go through 2. That little corner that I've created is where our next stitch goes into. We need to decide how many repeats we're going to do in order to decide how many windows to start our foundation row with. We always have these 3 windows, and then each repeat that we're going to do needs 8 more windows. So I am only going to be doing 1 repeat, which means I will need 11 windows. If you're going to do 2 repeats, you're going to need 19 windows, 3 plus 8 plus another 8. That 3 stays stationary, and we just add 8 every time we need a repeat of the width of our project. You can see here I am just creating windows as I go. If you absolutely hate this way of making windows, then you can create the main color windows, which is what I'm doing here, with the same technique that we're about to use for the accent color windows, where we chain all the way across and then put our double crochet chain, instead of making windows. So if you just stick with me, we will go try that technique. Let's double check the count in our foundation row first. We've got our 3 and we have 8 that you'll repeat as many times as you need. And when we're done that, we need to do something with this live loop until we're ready to use it again. So that's where I stick my stitch marker and then I set my whole project aside and grab my accent color. The accent color instructions are to chain repeats of 16 plus 7. So that 7 is the stationary part where no matter how many repeats, you need 7 to match those 3 windows here. And then however many repeats you've done, so in my case, I've only put 1 section of 8 windows here. If you have 2, then you'd have to have 16 chain plus 16 chain. If you have 3 repeats, then you have 16 plus 16 plus 16. And we can definitely all have problems counting. And in this case, it could make it difficult to continue with your project. So if you're unsure, I always say just add an extra chain. It's easy to take it out afterwards. So our line is going to line up with our windows, and then you just make it longer if you need to. Now we need to put our accent color through the main color window. Make sure that your main color windows are set up so that the live loop is over on the left, and we're going from the back to the front so that this gold chain can lie across all of these little double crochets and they will be hidden behind the chain, and it's coming out through the back. And now this window, this is where our steps are all going through the windows. We're going to make our double crochet through the window into the gold chain. So our first one, we're going to count down 5. This is the stitch that we're going to use. Sometimes it's easier if you kind of stretch it out a bit so you know which one it is that you're going to put your stitch into. And it has to come and sit in front. So like that's the window that we need to go through to pick up that loop that I've stretched out. We go through the back of the window, grab that loop, and then bring everything to the back. When we're doing our yarn overs and everything, we don't want anything stuck between there. Make your double crochet, chain one onto the next double crochet in the next window. And now we are going to skip one stitch at the bottom and then double crochet into the next chain so that we have a chain at the top and a chain at the bottom between each of our double crochets. This kind of boxy mesh. Through the window, skip one, double crochet into the next. You're going to do this all the way across so that your project is already interlocked right from the get-go. As we finish up our foundation rows, we want to make sure we don't twist our project. We need to keep track of this being the right side, and the layers should be locked so that you can see a straight line of blue, straight line of gold, straight line of blue. If things get twisted now, it makes a big problem later. The blue at the bottom is row 0, so we have just finished row 3. Our next row, we're going to use the teal again, and it'll be round 4. We flip it, we're working from the wrong side, and now you can see that actually it's not straight lines, it's like jagged things poking into each other. So this is our wrong side. You can look at the difference between the right side and the wrong side there. We want to move our stitch marker because we want that gold loop not to get accidentally pulled apart while we work with the blue layer. We're going to do row 4 using the main color, the teal. We're looking at the wrong side and see that's all these jagged things poking into each other. So we make sure that these gold tails are being held in the back so that they will be locked in for the next time that they're used. And our main color, we are going to chain 3. It counts as the double crochet on the side as well as the chain space that goes between all the double crochets. Our double crochet is either going to cover up the gold layer or hide behind the gold layer. Our first stitch is 1B. We have to work in the back, and it's going to go right behind this layer, but in the exact same spot. So we kind of can just move the gold layer out of the way. It's right where the double crochet is, lined up nice and straight, making another little box. These tails have to stay in the back. They're pretty much locked in at this point, and we are ready to continue with our asterisks. We chain one and we start our repeat. If you have more than one repeat, you'll have to start from here a few times, but I'm going to do it once. It's one front, chain space between all the stitches as always, then one in the back. So we can't really move the whole layer all the time, but right now it's pretty easy to find that stitch in the back. Chain one and then back in the front. We're making sure that the gold layer is not getting stuck in our blue stitches, it's just being woven between the windows. Now we have 2 in the back, one chain, another double crochet. Each double crochet lines up with the gold layer windows. And then in the front, we're going to go in, make sure everything is brought to the front. We do not want that gold layer locked between our yarn overs. So we're going to go into it and pull it all to the front, yarn over, do all the double crochet, and then one in the back. That's the end of the asterisks. If you have repeated yours to be wider, you're going to have to do that over a few times. So like the front stays the same, the asterisk starts here, and then this whole section, you're going to repeat it over and over and over until you get to the end of your project, however wide you've made it. And then we all finish the same. We're going to make sure we always have that chain space. We're going to add one more in the back. And then the end stitch can be kind of funny to find because it's not really boxy, it's kind of curved at the end. So we have to find our made up corners. You can either go right into the window or you can count the stitches, leaving one for the chain gap between. You can go into that second chain and that'll keep the corners nice and straight. Do your double crochet and then don't lose your loop. You're going to want to move your stitch marker over. You can see the gold layer because there's nothing pulling on it. It doesn't really make a corner right now. It's pretty wibbly wobbly, but we're going to fix that on our next round. I like to live dangerously and not have to fiddle with the stitch markers, so I'm actually not really going to use it, but usually I would put it into my main color loop to make sure it doesn't fall apart. As we work here with the accent color, you can see that because our stitch locked it in the back, our first chain 3 is in back. We're just stuck back there. We don't have a choice at this point. It's already been decided. Our first stitch is 1 in the front. This is lined up here on the edge, so our first stitch goes over here, 1 in the front. Making sure that the blue layer doesn't get yarned over and locked in weird, only through the windows. Then we have the asterisks again, so it has interrupted us. We now need to make 2 more in the front. So it could have just said 3, but because we need to know where that repeat starts, it's split up the instructions. chain 1, always between your stitches. So we've got nice boxy looking stitches. And then we have 3 in the back. So we're going to go pulling everything to the back before we yarn over. And 3 of those. Sometimes it can be tricky. You probably are also having that happen to you sometimes. So you can laugh at me if you want, but this is just crochet. That's just how it goes. Then we got 1 in the front, 1 in the back, 1 in the front, and that's where the asterisk ends. There's actually no other stitches. You repeat that section over and over and over, and then the final one would just be like an end stitch. So it's like between this, I'm going to repeat that however many times you have. And our end stitch goes in the back. So we have to go through the window. And there, it's hard to find like what's lined up with that. Well, it's sort of that window corner. So you can either use the whole window, or you can count chain 1 for the gap and then the second chain. It's up to you what you'd like to do. I usually try at the very beginning to use that second chain spot, and then later I get lazy and use the window because it has already more structure to it, but it's up to you. And this is our wrong side, but this is what it looks like so far. Maybe yours is bigger. So now we flip it over. We're going to be working from the right side. We're going to use our main color again for row 6, and the first thing that we have to do is deal with the accent color tails. This time they need to be kept to the front. We start with a chain 3 as always. And our accent color is going to be locked in with our very first stitch here. We make 1 in the front, go in, make sure everything is kept to the front. And that is where we've got our accent color locked. And now we're done the beginning. We need to look at the asterisks. This is our repeat section. 2 more in the front. So it's splitting at those instructions again. It looks like 3 in the front, but it's been interrupted. And then we have brackets, and the brackets in the written pattern are going to be followed through. So we've got 1 in the back and then 1 in the front, and then it says times 2. So we go back to the beginning of that bracket and we do 1 in the back and 1 in the front. And of course, all of these 1, that means double crochet plus chain. So that's always the same. And then we have 2 in the back, and that's the end of our repeat section. So if you're doing over and over, you would then go back to the beginning where it says the asterisk plus 2 in the front. So this is kind of like, you could put a stitch marker here if you wanted. This is a section that gets repeated over and over. And then we have to finish with our ending section, which is where I am. We're going to do 1 more stitch in the front. And our end stitch just goes right on the side. See, I go through the whole window because I get lazy at this point. Only the first at the beginning I use the chain counting. We now switch back into our accent color. I've left the loop really big so that it doesn't get accidentally pulled out. And then when I tighten up my yarn, I have made the mistake of sometimes missing my hook still, so do be careful. We start with chain 3 in the front. We're already locked in the front, we don't have a choice. And that's where the asterisk is. So now we're going to just do the beginning of the repeats. 3 in the front. Make sure that we're not locking that blue layer into anything. And then we will go to 3 in the back. You can already see a little heart sort of appearing. I love that. And that's our third one. Then we have 1 front, 1 in the back, and that's the end of the asterisk section again. So if you're repeating your design, you have to do your repeats. I have to finish mine. So we're going to finish off with 1 stitch in the front, and also our end stitch goes in the front. So the whole little corner section, and a nice long loop so I don't pull it apart, and I'll flip it over. This is the right side, and now we're flipping it over. We're working from the wrong side. Row 8, using our main color again. Do not lose your loop. And first thing we do is chain 3, of course. The accent color tails are at the back, so we leave them back there, and we do our first stitch. It's a 1B, so it's in the back, the tails are in the back. Hopefully nothing is tangled. And then we got the asterisk repeat section. We're going to start with 1 in the front. Then we'll have 2 in the back. Then we do 2 in the front. You can see a heart is already appearing on this side as well. So it's our wrong side, but I can already see an upside down heart. Then we've got back, front, back. Before we would be finished our little asterisk repeat section. And then we're going to look, see, this is where the repeat, right from there, that's over and over. And then we have to still add another one more in the back. So it looks like 2, but those asterisks kind of separate them. And the end stitch right into that corner window. We move on to our accent color. Don't lose that loop. So row 9, using the accent color, we're looking at the wrong side. Our chain 3 is in back because we were already locked back there. We did not have a choice. And then we have 1 front stitch before we reach that asterisk, the repeating section. So if you have stitch markers marking that, you move some around or whatever. Then we have 3 in the back, which allows us to get that nice straight line over here so we can see the edge of that heart. The bottom, upside down bottom of the heart. And then we will have 1 front. And 1 back. Then 3 more in the front, which gets us to the end with the asterisk repeated section. So you can see where we've got a little heart there. And then we still need to do our end stitch in the back. So kind of through that window, but bring that whole corner to the back. That's row 9. For row 10, we are back to looking at the right side of our project. Our accent color tails must come to the front. I like to keep them all lined up here so they don't get caught in the wrong spot. We start with our chain 3. And our first stitch is a front, 1 in the front. So we make sure that those accent color tails are getting locked into this window. The layers are not getting accidentally locked together, only through the windows. Then that line will just keep going up along the edge. And then we have our repeatable section starting with 2 in the back. Then we've got, oh no, we've got a silly loop, sorry. Then we have 2 in the front. And then brackets again, like repeats within repeats, right? I know it can be confusing for some. We're going to start at the beginning of the bracket and just read it through. 1 back, 1 front, and it says times 2, so we're going to do it again. 1 back, 1 front. We're almost there, sorry. Front. And that's the end of the repeat section. So you might need to do it again and again and again. I'm going to finish it off with 1 more in the front and our end stitch. Row 11, using our accent color, we have chain 3 in the front because we were already locked at the front, so we're stuck there. Our repeating section begins with 1 stitch in the front, 1 in the back. So we're making sure that we're lining up windows and stitches, nothing's getting crisscrossed. 3 in the front. One more. And then 3 in the back. So that's 1 in the back, double crochet, chain, 2 in the back, double crochet, chain, and the third one in the back, double crochet, chain. That's the end of our repeat, so you might have to do it again. I'm going to end it with one in the front and an end stitch also in the front. So this line is just going to keep going up. We go right into the window, make some corners. So row 12, we're going to be back to our main color. We are looking at the wrong side. The accent to the tails go to the back. We start with chain 3. And our first stitch is at the back. It's making a nice straight line on that side of the project. And the accent color tails are stuck in that window already. Our repeating section now has another one in the back. And then we go to 2 in the front. And then we're back to those weird brackets. So we're going to do one in the back. It's like back, front, right? So that's what we're doing. And we just kind of follow it through. So one in the back, one in the front, and then the bracket ends and it says ×2. So we do it a second time. One in the back, one in the front. And we have one more before the end of our repeat section. So there's another one in the back, and that's the end of the asterisk. So then you would have to go back to the beginning of the asterisk and work it all through. And then when you're done, we're going to put one more in the back and our end stitch right along the edge. Moving on to row 13, using our accent color, we're going to start with chain 3 in the back, of course, because we're already locked in back here. And then we have one in the back. This is part of the edge that doesn't get repeated. And then our repeat section begins also with one in the back. So we could have said 2 in the back, but we've split it up. And then we have one in the front. My yarn's being annoying. One in the back. Then 3 in the front. Sometimes I like to count 3, 1 and 3, 2 and 3, 3. So then when the numbers match, I know I've gotten to it, but I can find my place easier on the written pattern because I know I just did 3. Then we have 2 in the back, and that's the end of our repeatable section. We would be adding another one in the back. It would be a section of 3 if it wasn't interrupted. And now our end stitch goes also in the back. Get that kind of corner thing out of the way, right into the window. We are done. All right, using our main color again, we're looking at the right side. Our accent color tails are here at the front. They're going to stay out of the way. We start with our chain 3, and our one front locks everything. Sorry, my finger's kind of in the way. It's hard to find the stitches sometimes and make sure that everyone can see everything. Then our repeatable section begins with one in the back. It's better if you look at your project to find your stitches. Then we have one in the front, as long as you're keeping things lined up and straight. 2 in the back. Then we have 2 in the front. I'll try not to be too distracting while you guys are counting. See that it's making 1 and 2. Then we're going to have 1 stitch in the back, 1 stitch in the front, and that's the end of our repeatable section. So you'd have to go back to the start of the asterisk if you have more project. If you're ready to finish, then we are going to put 1 in the front and an end stitch right along the side. And there we go. Moving on to row 15, using our accent color, we're going to chain 3 in the front because that's where we are locked into, and then the repeat section starts with 2 in the back. And that allows us to see the little heart. The blue is being visible so that the heart shows up. Then we move on to 1 in the front because we're making the next heart. Front stitches, when we're looking at the right side, are stitches that make the heart design. Then we have 1 in the back and 3 in the front. So this one is for the edge of this heart, and then the next 2 are for the next heart. And we have one in the back. Oops, sorry. One in the back. And that's the end of the repeating section. If you were starting again, you'd have 2 more in the back, so it would be a total of 3. In this case, when we're at the end, it's only a total of 2. Because we're just repeating the beginning. So this wall of the heart is actually the same wall over here. It would make another heart if you were repeating it. And we're just sort of balancing it out when we don't do the repeats. So we finish with 1 more in back, and the front stitch goes in the end because it's our border lines, those lines that go straight across the bottom and then straight on each side. They're not part of the hearts anymore. For row 16, we're back to using our main color, the dark one here. We have the wrong side. The edges at the bottom are jagged, so we know this is the wrong side. We start with chain 3, 1 in the back, making sure that our accent color tails are locked in the back there. And then the repeat section starts with brackets. We're going to have front, back, front, back. So sometimes you can count by repeats, or if you, I don't know, it depends on how much information you can fit in your head. So I usually go front, back, and then I just start over again, front, back. I don't usually think of it as a whole 4 stitches in a row. 2 stitches is enough for my brain. And then we still have another one in the front. And then we're going to do 2 in the back because we can see the upside down heart here. And then we're going to have 1 more in the front before our asterisks. So our repeating section would have been a lot of front backs if you're doing repeats. And then we're just going to add 1 more in the back to balance it all off before we do our end stitch right on the side. It's not front or back, it's just on the side. Moving on to row 17, our accent color is stuck in the back. So we've got chain 3 in back. And then we have 1 stitch in the front for our non-repeated section. Our repeating section is going to start with 1 in the back, and then 3 in the front. 1, 2, and 3. And then we also have 3 in the back, right along the top of that heart, so we can see it all. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. And then we still need 1 more stitch in the front before our asterisks. And then we would go back to the beginning. Of course, I'm at the end of my little section, so I don't need to go back to the beginning and do back, 3 front, 3 back, 1 front, over and over. We're just going to put 1 in the back. That's kind of like that end weird cornery pocket thing. End stitch in back. And we're going to move right on to row number 18. Flip it over. Let's look at the right side. Move our tails out of the way. They've got to stay here at the front because this is the right side. We're going to start with our chain 3. And then 1 stitch in the front. Those accent color tails are totally locked in now. They need to be at the front. And then our repeat section begins with brackets. We're going to have 1 in the back, oops, and then 1 in the front. And then the brackets area says ×2, so we've got to go 1 in the back and 1 in the front. And then we will have 2 in the back, 1 and 2, then 2 in the front, and that's the end of the asterisk section, the repeated section. So to finish off this row, we're going to add 1 more in the front and our end stitch along the side. On to row 19. Using our accent color, the right side is facing us. We chain 3 in the front because that's totally where we're locked. And our repeat section begins with 1 in the front. Then we're going to do 3 in the back. 1 and 2 And sorry. Then we have one in the front, one in the back, then two in the front. If you were repeating, the repeat starts with one in the front, so you'd have 3 in a row. If you're not repeating like me, you do your 2 in the front here, and then you still put 1 more in the front. So we're going to have 3 in a row there. And then our end stitch, of course, is coming on the front. I'm going to grab that little window corner spot, stick it right in. And that is the end of our repeated section. Okay, so we've done 1 repeat wide and 1 repeat tall. In the repeated section, row 4 and 20 are exactly the same. The bottom of the heart, they'll be seamless hearts just going up and up, and also widthwise, however many repeats you do, these hearts won't be broken with the edge lines. When we are ready to finish, we'll be doing with the wrong side facing us. If you've done repeats, this won't be row 20 for you. So those stitch markers will come in handy. When you're ready to finish, you have to pretend like this is row 20, grabbing your main color, the wrong side is facing us, and normally these accent color tails, they have usually been kept to the other side so that we have a strong solid line there. And when we're finishing it up, we're actually switching that because our strong solid line will be going across the top of our project. Starting with our chain 3 as always. Then our first stitch is going to be 1 in the back. This is a normal back stitch. It's just those accent color tails are kind of in a weird spot. Keep them locked here. And then we are at the repeats, which is going to start with 1 in the front. Then we have 1 in the back, 1 in the front, 2 in the back, because I've got a nice little upside down heart there. I want him to be seen. Then 2 in the front, and 1 in the back. So that's the end of the repeated section. Then we have another one in the back and our end stitch to finish off this row. After we finish here, let's take a look at what's actually happening on the project, because it's a weird little new thing. On our right side, you can see our foundation has those 3 solid lines, blue, yellow, and then blue. It goes on the sides and the top. So we want that to match. That's what we're creating here, which is why it's not really part of the repeated section. And our row 21, using the accent color, is going to start with a chain 3 in front, which is why you had to change where you had left those tails. And the repeat section is really easy. It's just 8 in the front. You don't really need to count. By this point, you should be able to find all the stitches, but if you're not sure, you should keep counting, because that way you don't forget a stitch. And it's just front stitches all the way along, which is locking that blue line in front on the right side. So it makes that strong line. So even after we're done in the repeat section, we will still have 1 more front stitch and also an end in front. Everything is going to be here in front. Front is, of course, what we can see, not necessarily the right side, wrong side. And we are just about at the end here. Nearly finished with this row. One thing you may want to consider is in your final end in front stitch, you can go through that window, or you might prefer to find the second chain. It'll make the corner just feel a little bit more secure because we're near the end of the project, and I don't know, it's just like one of those little details that I like to do. I'm not sure if it totally makes a difference, but that's what I do. And when we are finished with this, we actually get to cut this yellow one off now. So we're going to just pull the yarn through that final loop, cut it, and then pull the yarn all the way through. That will create the knot. And we're done with that one. We'll weave those tails in later. Our square is looking pretty finished. We've got our nice straight lines on all of the edges. We just need to finish with that blue along the top. So we're using our main color. The right side is facing us. We start with our chain 3 as always. And then every single stitch, it's really easy. We don't really need to pay attention to the repeats. It's all in the back. So you can count if you want, 1 in the back and then repeats of 8 in the back. I'm just going to make sure that we get every stitch. So if counting helps you make sure you don't miss any, then keep counting. Otherwise, just make sure you're going through every window, grabbing every stitch, doing the back one. And after the repeat of 8, there is still one more in the back. So again, you don't really need to count, but just to be thorough, it starts with 1 in the back, then there's a repeat of 8, and then another one in the back, all the way across essentially. And the end stitch on both sides is just on the outside of the project, so there's no front or back for the main color layer. The main color layer is 1 window larger than the accent color layer, so we don't need to worry about that part. And again, you can go through the window or you can find that second chain just to make your final corner just a bit more cornery. That's not a word, square. There. And now you can choose to add that single crochet border on the edge. You don't need to cut the yarn now if you want to add it around the edges, or you can cut it all off and be done. Your square is done. It's just that the single crochet border, I find it helps things lay a little flatter and look a little bit more finished. So if you're going to join this to a blanket, you might want to leave it available for joining, or now might be the time. When you're doing the border, there are 2 options. We can either just go into the main color layer, the dark blue, or you can do this weird grab where you're actually taking a bit of the yellow layer as well. And that's what I like to do just because there's less flappy gappy. It is optional. If you do it like me, when we go through the corner, I'm going to grab 1 loop of this yellow. So we're going to count. The second chain is the corner chain. So I'm going to grab 1 loop from the second chain in this little corner section. I am going through the main color window and grabbing 1 bit of the yellow to do a single crochet. And then my next stitch is just through that same main color window, just regular. Then I move on to the next window. And in this window, I'm going to put 2 stitches. Every main color window will have 2 stitches. My first one, I grab a weird yellow loop, and then the next stitch is just normal. So it's like 2 single crochets in each window, but the first single crochet, I try to grab a loop of the yellow. And I have found that grabbing this weird front loop, for a second, it looks like it's pulling too much. It's like weird. But once everything relaxes, I find it just keeps things in place better. So that's the stitch that I tend to grab. You just keep working all the way to the end. When we get to the corner, we'll add a few more stitches because we have 2 in each window on each side. So on this side, I'm going to put 2 single crochets into that main color window. And then when I turn my project, I need another 2 stitches into that same window. And so that is maybe the trickier spots, is if you're going to add the weird layer attachment and then the corners are weird. So optional step, there's a few other videos that I have that maybe show it a little better. This video moves very quickly. It's not really a tutorial on the techniques video. It's more like a walkthrough on what we have already learned elsewhere, right? So here we are at the corner. I like to do my first stitch not grabbing anything, and then my second stitch, the one that's closest to the corner, is where I grab the yellow layer, just for the corner one. So you can already see it lays better. It looks thicker. It's not rolled underneath the layer. It just sits nicer. So I do like to do it, especially for the small squares. And it does make a nice edge for when you're joining the squares as well. So now we are working along what's technically the bottom of the square, which means when you're grabbing the yellow layer, it's going to look a little different. So you can add chain 2 in the corner. You can do chain 1 if you think it's too much. I just think that 2 single crochets, 2 chains, and then 2 more single crochets into the corner is usually what I prefer to do. And now that we are on this side, my first single crochet again is where I'm going to grab that yellow loop, just to keep it really attached to the corner and make sure that the yellow layer is as square as it can be. Have that extra stitch like pulling it into the square format without it kind of being lazy and the corner gets a bit circular. And that is the stitch that kind of gets a little extra into it. We will weave the tail in afterwards, don't worry about that part. And then sort of like how on the side where I was trying to decide which loop to grab, I actually usually grab the front loop right under the double crochet. And even though it feels like it's pulling too big when you're grabbing at things, like why wouldn't you grab the back loop? I just feel like it keeps things laying together nicer. So that's my preference. But as long as you're consistent and you find what works for you, it's your project. There are no rules. I am not going to jump in your house and tell you you did the border wrong. So have fun with it, play with it, trial and error, try some things, see if they are what you like. And it could even change based on what you're making, right? So if I'm joining this to other squares for a blanket, I'm going to want probably a different finishing touch than if this is a hot pad and everyone's going to see all of the edges all the time. So things to consider. And here you can really see 2 edges have not been done and 2 have been done. You can really see how it does make that blue edge just much more visible and kind of frames your project a little better. So I do like the border on it, but definitely optional. I'm just going to keep working on this border and we will get to the finished square in just a second. It'll be really fast for me, not as fast for you, sorry. You have to actually crochet each stitch. And of course, once you get to the end, you do also still have to join it to your first corner. And we didn't have chain 2 in there yet. I think we had 1 chain to get up there. So I usually just do 1, sometimes depending on the yarn, I do 2, but 1 or 2 chains and then join it to your first stitch because this is our final corner. We're done with our project. There are fancy ways to join. I just usually go in, pull it out, cut it, pull it through all the way. And then I'm going to weave in these ends so that they don't come apart. And we are done. Super speedy weaving in ends time. I did all 4 ends and ta-da, I'm done. And we're going to look at the right side of the project. The edges have those straight lines, blue, yellow, blue, top, bottom, and all sides. The side columns, the yellow is shorter than top and bottom. And the wrong side, you got all those like poking in places where it's kind of jagged. But that is our beautiful many hearts square. Thanks for crocheting with me. Like and subscribe if you got the time. Bye guys.